End of Fiesta. EVs cost 25% more to repair. BMW Ireland new MD. Toyota and Hyundai adds band. VW Audi go with artificial intelligence. Sales of cars will never recover the pre-COVID. F1 power station. Volkswagen dealer has £500,000 stolen. Hello, I'm Paul Callan and welcome to this week's MotorZen News. 47 years of Fiesta came to an end on the 7th of July. The last Fiesta rolled off the production line in Callan after 22 million were produced. The car was launched in 1976, and to be fair to Ford, the car was very, very advanced for its time. It was transverse front wheel drive. It had lots of room due to the front wheel drive layout, almost flat floor, much more roomier inside. When I think about it, Toyota didn't go to front wheel drive until 1984 with the Starlet. So Ford were well ahead. Okay, the 127 probably was one of the first to go in that small sector, but the Fiesta was a very popular car from the day it was launched and in all the various marques since then. Amazing how Ford, who is a company that constantly produced these consistent, reliable models in each segment, how now that the Fiesta's gone, the S-Max is gone, the Galaxy's gone, the Mondeo is gone, just goes to signify the amount of change that we're experiencing in the industry, that they're saying they're scrapping all these brands and replacing them with the new EV type concepts and EV type ideas. Tatcham Research in the UK has done a study on the repair of EVs for the repair industry and the insurance industry. They're saying that the repair bill on an average EV will be 25% more than an ICE vehicle, and it will take 14% longer. What they're saying is the battery is a massive, massive value of the car. So if the battery is damaged, the vehicle becomes a total loss really, really quickly. They're saying that in some instances, the price of the battery is more than the used value of the car after a year old. So they're saying a batteries ranging from £14,000 to £30,000. So interesting situations where a car a year old, effectively to repair it costs more than the car would be to buy new. Damaged EVs have a situation now where the UK safety-wise are saying that these vehicles must be parked in a isolation area for 48 hours and that this area must be 15 metres away from any object. Well, they've calculated out that the space to put 2 EVs in this 15 metre exclusion zone, you would be able to put 100 internal combustion engine cars. So this gives you some idea of the safety wise. If the vehicle's been in an accident, you're being told to keep it isolated in this 15 metre away from anything space. They're saying that in itself is going to add £60 to each vehicle in storage charges. So a lot of extra charges being incurred on EVs that are only starting to come to the surface now when they're out there in the real world. And this is going to start to reflect on the insurance premiums. So I think the manufacturers will have to get involved in this situation with the batteries in terms of repairing or assisting in repair, because there doesn't seem to be much support on their side. I think that's where some of the problem comes from. Helen Westby has been appointed MD for BMW Ireland. She previously was head of training services. So she was head of sales training, service training and technician training. And the thing that's interesting about Helen being appointed to MD at BMW, she's probably been appointed at one of the most radical change points. BMW took control of the Irish concession in 2003 from Frank Keane. Frank Keane introduced BMW to the Irish market in 1967. But the big changes coming down the road in 2024 is that many dealers will now go from being from the franchise model to the agency model. So what we're going to see now is a situation where the customer will buy the car directly off BMW, not from the franchise dealer, and the franchise dealer will only become a handover facility. I think they're talking about introducing the same thing to BMW in 2027. But 2024 Helen Westby's going to oversee this massive change in our industry. The whole reason for a dealer, the whole purpose of a dealer changes in 2024 with the Mini, and it's going to be an interesting space to watch as that rolls out. Toyota and Hyundai had TV ads banned in the United Kingdom, TV and press ads banned in the United Kingdom. They made claims for the BZ4X that it could charge 80% in 30 minutes on a 150 kilowatt charger. The iconic 5 made claims that it could go from 10% to 80% in 18 minutes on a 350 kilowatt charger. The authority examined this, and what they discovered was that these were ideal conditions. These were factory conditions. That there are only a few EV chargers of this capacity in England. There's virtually none in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. I'm not sure. I presume there's very little in the south of Ireland. So the authority said this is not a fair claim to make because it's not really possible for a customer to access these type of charging facilities. But again, to be fair to the manufacturer, they're producing the car with this capability. It's the infrastructure that isn't able to provide what the car can provide. So an interesting situation where it's down to the infrastructure really, and you'd imagine that there had to be some kind of blowback for the government in this situation as opposed to the manufacturers. We're hearing more and more about artificial intelligence, and this is one of the first places I've seen it being deployed in the motor industry, and it's in quite a boring and repetitive type situation. But Volkswagen is deploying artificial intelligence in one of its Audi plants. It's going to roll it out to 3 more of its European plants. Traditionally what they've done, they've used ultrasonic to manually check spot welds randomly. Well, they're deploying AI to check spot welds. It can check 1.5 million spot welds on 300 cars per shift. So they're able to virtually check every single spot weld with AI, and then they're able to identify issues where they're not getting the highest quality they would require, and then go back and adjust and rectify that based on the data that they're able to repeat get from the AI. So not particularly space age or overly advanced, quite a very repetitive task, but again, it's going to show itself up in the quality of products as we go on, because you're going to be able to check everything with this as opposed to randomly check, and maybe some stuff get through that's not of the quality you would like. There was a global automotive survey done recently on the outlook of the automotive industry, and it said that new car sales in Europe will never return to pre-COVID levels. They reckon that sales volumes in Europe will continue to be 3 million cars less going forward. ICE will never return, internal combustion will never return to the numbers that it previously had. So I think we have all worked that out, that internal combustion engines year on year on year will sell less and less and less, to the point where there will be no more internal combustion engines sold. The interesting stuff to come out of it is that the Chinese brands will outsell foreign brands in the home market, and that by 2030 they will have 65% of the Chinese market. Now, the reason a lot of European brands went to China was primarily because it was such a big market, and they made a lot of money in China. It looks like now that they're going to be forced out of those. So if you look at all the changes and all the forces that are acting on traditional car manufacturers, it's coming from every angle. The report also said that raw materials for EVs currently cost in the region of €5,000 more for an EV, but they reckon that will drop by half in the next 3 to 5 years as a result of sourcing new materials and different materials and less expensive materials. Oliver Blume is the CEO of Porsche, and he went to Le Mans, to the 24-hour race Le Mans recently. He brought his 911 Turbo to that event, and he stayed in a rooftop tent on the 911. Yeah, Porsche do a tent for a 911. It folds out and you climb up a ladder to the tent on the 911. He parked the vehicle in a campsite for all of the Porsche employees, and he stayed in it with his wife for 2 nights in Le Mans. When I first seen this, I thought it was some kind of a publicity stunt thing, but really it is being offered as an accessory for a 911 and all of the Porsche range, And what they've identified is that camping is becoming more popular. And you would assume that camping wouldn't be popular among that elite client, but it is, and they're producing accessories and products for that. Mini have already done this with some of their range. They've offered camping extra for their vehicle, and it's all based on a mechanism that opens out on the roof of the vehicle. So again, 911, and you put your tent on top of the 911, and there you go, there's your home for the night. Traditionally at most Grand Prix, each F1 team provides its own power. There is insufficient power at most tracks to meet the needs of each team, so they bring generators with them. Well, last week in Austria, they trialled an energy farm. This farm has been powered by HVO or biofuel or 600 square meters of solar. And the idea is that this single farm will provide all the power needs of all the teams. They reckon that currently with all the various generators running, they're putting out 200 tons of CO. And with this type of setup, they'll get it down to 10 tons of CO. So again, trying to reach net zero by 2030. But I suppose if you look at this, it probably would look bad for the F1 teams if you see that these generators are putting out so much carbon into the atmosphere. So they probably really have to do something. This has only been trialled. It's not currently going to be at every track. They trialled it, it seemed to have worked well, and they're looking then to introduce it to every track. Little lesson in the next story here about keep an eye on your numbers in your business, and you assume sometimes big organisations are totally on top of all their numbers. Well, Edwin May is a Volkswagen dealer in Northern Ireland, and at one of their sites in Limavady, a lady that worked for them for 11 years, Norma Smith, has just been charged with fraud to the tune of almost £500,000. They reckon if you count it out over the months, she was stealing something around £3,000 per month. Edwin May is part of the Roadside Motor Group, and in spite of this activity, the lady was even able to negotiate a pay rise just prior to the fraud being discovered. But it always surprises me that you assume big organisations are on top of their numbers. Certainly numbers like these you'd assume they'd have picked it up before now. But yeah, it's running into almost £500,000 that she's siphoned off in various schemes in the 11 years she worked for Edwin May in Limavady. That's it for this week, guys, and thanks for watching. Last show we did got great numbers. Please, if you could, give us the like. It's a big help to us, and we'll see you next week. Thanks. Bye.